Alright, working with the congruent parts for triangles, let's take a look at some other ways to mark things as being congruent. So it says tick marks are used to show the congruence of specific segments. Two segments with an identical number of tick marks are congruent. If two segments have a different number of tick marks, then they are not congruent. So for example, consider the two triangles to the left. Side AB is congruent to side EF because they both have two tick marks. Thus, the lengths of these sides are the same. So let's complete these statements. Side DF, here's DF, it has 3 tick marks. It's congruent to the 3 tick marks on the other triangle. So in that triangle, that happens to be BC. Side ED, ED has 1 tick mark. So in the other triangle, the side that has 1 tick mark is AC. Note, side AB is not congruent to side ED because they have a different number of tick marks. So AB has 2 tick marks and ED has 1 tick mark. So they are not congruent. Side AB has 2 tick marks, whereas side ED only has 1 tick mark. So we can use tick marks to show that sides of triangles are congruent. Similarly, angle arcs are used to show the congruence of specific angles. Two angles with an identical number of angle arcs are congruent. So an arc is just like a half circle. If two angles have a different number of angle arcs, then they are not congruent. So for example, let's look at the example to the right. For example, consider the diagram to the right. Angle G is congruent to angle K because they both have 3 angle arcs. So the measure of the two angles must be the same. So for example, they both could have measures of 55 degrees. Using the diagram, angle J has 2 angle arcs. So it's going to be congruent to angle I because that also has 2 angle arcs. And then angle GHI is this guy right here with 1 tick mark. That's congruent to angle JHK. As a reminder, if two triangles are congruent, then a triangle congruency statement can be written that states they are congruent. Suppose the two triangles to the left are congruent. A triangle congruency statement that states their congruency could be triangle MUD is congruent to triangle ZSQ. The letters used in the triangle congruency statement were not given in a random order, but rather so that the congruent angles are in corresponding positions. In other words, note that the letters M and Z both appear first in the statement. So M and Z are the first letters in the statement. This must mean that angle M and angle Z are congruent. Flipping the page, in the same way, angle U and S are congruent because they are both in the second slot, and angle D and Q are congruent because they are both in the third position. So with this knowledge, angle arcs should be given to the appropriate angles in the diagram. Since angle M and Z are congruent from the top of this page, both can be given 1 angle arc. So notice in the diagram we put 1 angle arc to show that they're congruent. Now we're going to draw in angle arcs for the other angles based on the information above. For example, angle U and S are congruent, so they should receive the same number of angle arcs. So for angle U, I'm going to put 2 angle arcs because that's the next available number I could use. So angle U and angle S are congruent with 2 angle marks. That means that angle D is congruent to angle Q, so that'll have 3 angle marks. So let's try another example. Suppose that triangle YJA is congruent to triangle RUP here to the right. Draw angle arcs in the figure based on the triangle congruency statement above and the angle arcs. So they already gave us some angle arcs. Let's see if we can match them. Angle Y is the very first letter, so the matching corresponding part is angle R. So angle Y is congruent to angle R. Since Y already has 1 arc, I'm going to match it with R with 1 arc as well. Angle J is congruent to angle U. So angle J and U are not marked right now, but there is an angle with 2 arcs used. I'm going to show you a different method, or a special arc you might see, an arc that has a line through it. is another method of marking angles congruent. So these angles that have the little slash through them are also congruent. And then the last one, angle A, is congruent to angle P. P has 2 tick marks, or 2 arcs, so A has to have 2 as well. So now I've shown that those 2 triangles are congruent using the angles symbols and the arcs. Try the last part of this page on your own, and then you can move on to the station activity for today.